What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ChoosingBeggars. Alright, so this story's called Choosing Beggar Accuses Me and My Boss of Being Kid Diddlers. And TLDR, Choosing Beggars will do anything to get out of paying £26 for a day out. After watching countless r/ videos in lockdown, I just had to share this story from my old job. So I used to work in a leisure center with a fairly large kids play pool. It had slides, a pirate ship, rapids, the works. So unfortunately, that meant we got a lot of both entitled parents and choosing beggars in the summer holidays. There wasn't a pool like this for about half an hour drive in any direction, because we live in rural England, so it was pretty popular. There are so many stories I could tell about working here, but this is probably the best one. It could go in r/entitled parents, but I felt like this one is the best fit. So it was a Saturday in the Easter holidays, and I was the only staff member on the front desk with a queue of about 100 people out the door and into the car park. Not ideal. We had a system where you got a colored band that signaled when you could go in the pool, and each color would get called out after an hour so it wasn't unsafe for the ratio of customers to lifeguards. Because it was so busy, we had about an hour's wait to be able to go swimming, but most customers didn't mind because we had a big playground next to the center, a coffee shop, and a mini golf course, so there was plenty to do for an hour. So far, I'd not had too many problems with customers that I couldn't defuse myself because my manager was lifeguarding that day, so all in all, it was going pretty well. Until choosing beggars arrive. Even from the queue, I had a feeling I'd have trouble with these customers because they were the typical chavvy family from the tougher parts of our area. English people will know what I mean by the typical chav, but for others, I'll add a brief description. There was two women about mid-20s, early 30s with their 4 kids. 4 of them between the ages of 7 and 15. The kids were obnoxiously loud, dressed in head-to-toe Adidas tracksuits or crop tops with neon bras underneath. Fake tan so hard they looked like they were covered in peanut butter, huge hooker hoop earrings, tongue and nose piercings, slug eyebrows, and badly bleached hair. Typical chavs. The fun started when they got to the till and I told them the prices. A family ticket was about £20, but only had up to 3 children on it, so they had to pay another £6 for the 4th child. Granted, it's quite expensive for just an hour, but there's nothing else to do with kids in our town. Choosing Beggar number 1 piped up saying the price was ridiculous and that they shouldn't have to pay for the extra child because she was 7, which wasn't our policy. Then she tried to convince me she was a carer for her son who was autistic. We do allow carers to swim for free, but only if they can provide proof of the disability, which this woman couldn't do, so I couldn't let her in as a carer. She then started going off about the fact I'm discriminating against her son and that he was autistic and she wanted a price reduction for the horrible service she received. I almost fell down when I was reading that. Obviously, I couldn't do that, but I tried to calmly explain that I wasn't saying her son wasn't autistic, just that if she didn't have her carer card or paperwork, she couldn't swim for free today. The queue was getting even bigger, and it was getting a bit awkward to say the least. Next, the older woman butted in, saying they should receive a discount because they get benefits from the government and can't afford full-price tickets, and that their friend had been giving benefits discounts here before, which I knew for a fact was BS. After trying again to calmly explain that the person that served them had the wrong information, and they got even more pissed off. After a few more minutes of back and forth, I could finally tell them about the wait time for the pool, and once again, they kicked off big time. These choosing beggars demanded free food vouchers for the coffee shop upstairs and again trying to get a discount for the wait, which of course I couldn't provide, but said if they wanted some free activities while they waited, they could use the park next to the center. This carried on for another 5 minutes or so, and they finally paid, but demanded to see the manager. Since he was really busy, I said he wasn't available, but they could speak to him after their swim. Sometimes I would do this with problem customers because by the time they'd had their swim, they'd forgotten all about their petty complaints. They finally left and went to wait for their swim, and I could get on with my day, hoping that I wouldn't see them again before my shift ended. A few hours later, their color band got pulled out of the pool after their time limit. I didn't see them come back out, but didn't think anything of it because it was busy, so I couldn't pay that close attention. Another 45 minutes went by, and I could hear some issues with the lifeguards over our radios about people who refused to get out of the pool because they didn't have their full time, blah 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 blah. So I told them to send them back to me once they were out and changed, knowing full well it was choosing beggars coming back to ruin my day again. The choosing beggars and their children caused hell in the changing room, walking mud everywhere, throwing things, leaving dirty clothes in the showers, etc. So they were escorted upstairs by my manager so we could deal with them. My manager for the story, I'll call him Nigel, was a tall, muscly man who took no crap. He was very intimidating, but the best person to have on your side when it came to annoying customers. So once the choosing beggars get to the till, they are shouting and swearing for all they're worth and causing a massive scene. I'm usually pretty good at dealing with these people because we get them a lot. So Nigel just stood beside me quietly, ready to step in if he needed to. The choosing beggars and the two older girls who were with them continued to call me a stupid freaking B-word, saying I'd overcharged them and insulted their brother for being autistic. And I'd been generally rude to them for being on benefits. More insults were thrown and demands for a refund, which I told them they wouldn't be getting, showing them the paper with the times of each color to prove they got their time in the pool. At this point, these choosing beggars were red with anger and even flinging even more insults at me, with other customers in the queue even telling them off for swearing. What they said next, I was not expecting, and just proves their desperation for a refund. The older of the mothers, choosing beggar number 2, started saying there were cameras in the changing room spying on their children and recording them getting changed, and saying she was going to call the police and have both me and my manager arrested for, kid diddling. I was just dumbfounded and had no clue what to say. I know for a fact that there aren't cameras in the changing rooms, only in the corridors to protect the lockers from theft, and they most definitely don't point into the changing rooms at all. At this point, I look at Nigel for help, seeing as she threatened to call the police. He just repeated what I said, and the older of choosing beggars' children accused Nigel of touching her when she was in the pool and started shouting that he was a kid diddler and demanding a refund and compensation for her trauma in front of an entire queue of customers. Nigel and I didn't say anything for a second, and the choosing beggars look very smug, as if they'd gotten us and would finally get some money out of us. Nope! Nigel had proof on CCTV that he wasn't even in or near the pool when they were there, so they were lying. Not happy about being caught in a lie, the older woman threw her wristbands from the swimming session and some of the food wrappers in her hand at me and Nigel and proceeded to call him a nonce, or a British slang for kid diddler, and me a fat, stupid bimbo, and other such insults as they walked out the door, kicking over the displays and throwing stock at us from the door, which hit some queuing customers in the crossfire. All that fuss for £26. These choosing beggars aren't quite the worst I'd had at my old job, but it's definitely up there. I have no clue how I lasted another year at that place. Okay, so those who are familiar with what chavs are, did y'all like roll your eyes or sigh as soon as they mentioned that they were typical chavs? Is that like the English equivalent of of like trailer trash or something? Because honestly, that behavior sounds very similar. Alright, this story's called Bulletproof Beggar. So, I'm a long-time lurker here, but I never really thought I'd have a good opportunity to post about a choosing beggar. Sorry if this gets a bit long. So obviously, due to COVID-19, a lot of people are struggling and out of work. My brother and his wife both lost their jobs due to the pandemic. And because they were previously contracted to work out of the US, they're not eligible for unemployment. I'll call them brother and sister-in-law. They also lived in corporate housing in Japan that came with my brother's job. So not only are they out of work, but they're suddenly homeless. Crappy situation, for sure, but not really in anyone's control. So my parents offered to let them stay rent-free until things calm down and they can find work. And they quickly fly home to the US. This is when my parents find out that they have no money. Nothing in savings, despite both making 6 figures in Japan. Just a little bit of cash from their last paychecks. Apparently, they'd been living like high rollers, spending their money on expensive crap as fast as they made it. Here's where it gets really delicious. Both my parents are in their 60s and are getting ready to retire, so they're trying to save everything they can to be in a good position when they stop working. But now, because brother and sister-in-law both still have multiple bills each month, such as credit card payments and cell phones, my parents are loaning them money to pay their bills, as well as paying for all their food, etc. So it's now been a few weeks into this, and brother and sister-in-law decide they want to start drinking bulletproof coffee in the morning. For those not familiar, it's basically a high-calorie meal replacement coffee made with butter and other oils. The trouble here is that Bulletproof is a trademarked brand that sells their own oils in clarified butter or ghee, with the usual ridiculous markup that overhyped fitness trends tend to come with. It's also worth mentioning that there are about 8.3 million fitness blogs with much cheaper dupe recipes. So my mom, trying to be supportive, takes the time to make them fresh, homemade, clarified butter to use in their coffee each day, for the price of regular store-bought butter. However, my sister-in-law still refuses to use it because it isn't grass-fed butter. My mom calls me in tears because brother and sister-in-law are accusing her of judging their life by insisting on buying them cheap food and suggesting that they get a job at a delivery company if they want special groceries. I tell her to put me on speaker and proceed to chew them out and explain that beggars can't be choosers. My sister-in-law then takes the opportunity to start ragging on my customer service job and saying that she and my brother are worth so much more than me, etc. So I, of course, am done with it and point out that while I might have a low-wage customer service job, I am paying all my own bills and have money in the bank. Good Lord, my brother and I were raised exactly the same. I have no idea what happened to make him such a choosing beggar. They are so lucky to have parents that are willing to put up with that crap again. Okay, they had to raise your ass for 18 plus years, and now because you're irresponsible, they've got to take care of you again. And like they said, obviously there are some circumstances outside of people's control, but obviously these people, these specific individuals, they had the means of being well off in case of something like this happening, but they chose not to, or they were too irresponsible to. Either way, dum-dums. Alright, so this story's called Entitled Woman Wants Me to Buy Her Groceries During Lockdown. First, a bit of context. I live in Italy, and this story happened during the second week of lockdown. I had never talked with all the people that live in my building before lockdown, but I knew some of them were quite old. Having said this, let's start with the story. After the first week of lockdown, I was too bored to stay home, so I decided to go buy groceries for the old people in my building as they were more at risk than me. I didn't want to be paid or anything, I just wanted to go out a bit. They would give me a list of things to buy, I would tell them how much everything cost, so they would leave the money outside their door and I would leave their groceries. So there was no contact. Note, I took every possible measure to stay safe, and I even went to very far supermarkets to be the only one buying groceries. About 2 or 3 days after this thing had started, this woman knocks on my door. My mom wasn't home, so I spoke to her without opening the door. The conversation went like this.
Hi, can I come in?
Hi, we can speak through the door.
Oh, okay. I noticed you are buying groceries for everyone in the building but me.
Yeah, I'm helping the 2 families on the floor above because they are old.
Well, could you buy groceries for me too?
I thought about this as another opportunity to go out. Of course, just tell me what you need. She tells me everything. That same evening, I went to the supermarket and bought everything she needed, and I sent her a message telling her the cost, around 100 euros. She saw the message, but didn't answer. I called her while coming back so I could find the money outside her door to avoid any contact. She didn't answer. I eventually arrived at home and knocked on her door, and she told me,
"Leave the groceries outside. I'll take them once you are gone."
And I said, "First pay me." She started yelling things like,
"Old person upstairs told me you didn't want to be paid,"
and started demanding that I leave her groceries outside the door. I just left and came back home. While going down the stairs, she threatened to call the police, telling her I stole her groceries, but she didn't. I kept everything. She started avoiding me since then, but it doesn't bother me. How do people think that's okay? This is why we can't have nice things, because anytime people try to do something nice, people like this just ruin everything for everybody, then the people who need help don't get the help they need. This story is called, "A Woman Asked Me to Give Her Chocolate Because of Her Poor Planning, and then says I'm gouging her when I ask her to pay me for it." There's a chocolate shop in my state that my mom absolutely loves. They make super high quality chocolate. This stuff is not cheap, it's about $30 per pound. They opened up orders for pickup and I placed a relatively large order, wanting to make my mom feel special for Mother's Day. I went to go pick up the chocolate and let the girl out front know that I was there to pick up my order. As I was sitting there in my car, a woman pulled up and asked to go inside the store. The girl out front said that they weren't letting people in and that they weren't taking any more orders. They were, in fact, filling orders like mine that were placed 3 weeks ago. The woman started blubbering, but the girl out front wasn't having it. As this was happening, another employee carried my large bag of chocolate out. The woman came up to my car and asked for some of my chocolate. Since I had a big order and she wanted to give something to her grandmother, I felt a little bad and said I could give her a 1-pound assortment box I got, not my mom's favorite. I asked her to give me $30. The woman was furious, saying,
$30? That's ridiculous. Why are you gouging me on Mother's Day? What's wrong with you?
I said that $30 was about what I paid. She said,
"Can I have it for 15? My grandmother was such a great woman."
She started talking about how her grandmother was alive during World War II, etc. I said, "Sorry, $30 or nothing," and she called me a baseball pitcher. So, that was my Saturday. That's the kind of chocolate I want to try. Fancy chocolate that doesn't have liquor in it, because I tried one of those. Oh my god, it's so bad. Ugh. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.